Welcome to Slice of Lyme, where every episode brings a fresh dose of truth, resilience, and hope. We're not medical professionals, and this is not medical advice. We're simply sharing what's worked for us on our own healing journeys. Welcome to our first ever Slice of Lyme podcast episode. I am Bebe Pleasant, and I am joined by Callie, Christen, Kaleigh, and Abby. We all met on TikTok, and we became really close friends as we were preparing to talk to our Congress members about Lyme advocacy, about Lyme funding. And as we were sharing our stories, we were all very nervous about it, and we were all probably a little nervous about doing it today as well. And so we created this really close bond, and we wanted to share more of our stories, wanted to talk about what it means to have Lyme disease and live a day-to-day life. All of us are in different areas of our healing. Some of us have recently been diagnosed. Some of us have been in remission and are fighting to remain in remission. My name is Bebe. I am 40 years old. I live in North Carolina. I have been in remission now from Lyme disease for about a year and a half, but traveling throughout the world, trying to find a new place to call home has caused a couple of flare-ups. And so I'm in the middle of trying to figure out how to maintain remission, and I'm looking forward to sharing more about that with you guys. And today we're also joined by Kaleigh. Kaleigh, do you want to share a little bit about your story?
Yeah, my name is Callie. I'm 29 and I'm from Illinois. I've been sick most of my life, but it took more than 15 years to receive a diagnosis. I had flares of Lyme throughout middle school, high school, and college without realizing or knowing they were Lyme flares. And I owned a dance studio from 2015 to 2020. And during that duration of time, I was always sick with something and assumed it was the flu or stress or because I was around kids all of the time. In those years, my main symptoms were random flus and fevers, unexplainable cases of swimmer's ear, waves of nausea, really severe acid reflux. I had so much inflammation. I couldn't lose weight. I couldn't sweat. And I was working out, teaching dance, and active throughout that entire duration. Couldn't figure out what was wrong. I changed my lifestyle in 2019 because I was so desperate to feel better. I saw improvements in my gut health and overall energy, but I still didn't feel like myself, if that makes sense. Owning a small business during COVID added to the stress and all of my symptoms. In the fall of 2020, I closed my business, and then 1 month later, I got COVID, and that's when my health really started to decline. In the months following COVID, I got worse and developed high blood pressure, sensitivity to caffeine, heart palpitations, chronic fatigue, and memory loss. I had a migraine that persisted for 1 week. And my primary told me if the migraine doesn't go away, you need to go to prompt care or go to the ER. I didn't listen. I continued to work. I continued to push my body. And then that migraine was kind of the tipping point of my facial droop and the pull in my face. One night I went to go lay down for bed, and as my face hit the pillow, it got really heavy. And as I sat up, I could feel the left side of my face pulling. So I looked in the mirror and thought I was having a stroke because of the different symptoms I had been experiencing leading up to that moment. I called 911. I got to the ER. They ran so many different scans and labs. Everything came back normal. They gave me an IV cocktail that helped the facial droop. It actually, my face went back to normal. They discharged me. They said, if the facial droop comes back, then come back in and we'll do more tests. So I went home, took a nap, started eating. As soon as I started using my mouth again, the facial palsy came back. And so I went back in. At that point, they ran more scans, and they also tested me for Lyme. And I was CDC negative. My Western blot was negative, but my Lyme serology was positive. And that was the first point that I even learned about Lyme disease or knew that Lyme was an issue for me. It was actually a dance mom who helped me find my first LLMD. And with the help of the community and other people throughout my town that had been through Lyme, I was able to find some doctors to just help lead me into the right direction. I'm still processing everything that's happened because it's been a very long 4 years. I I kind of have it broken up into chunks. So, the first year of my journey was spent chasing a diagnosis for the body spasms because every LLMD I saw, they didn't know what the body spasms were or how to help me. And so, I was looking for a diagnosis for the body spasms while treating Lyme and co-infections. And to this day, I've never received a nerve study, muscle study, or any tests for seizures. Neurologists have all diagnosed these body spasms as migraines, functional neurological disorder, or stress. The first year was a lot of failed trial and error. And yeah, I couldn't find an LLMD who understood neuro-Lyme and who could help me in the way that I needed help. The second year was spent focusing on co-infections, and then I also needed my gallbladder removed in the process of that. I spent 2 weeks at Shirley Ryan in Chicago for FND, and I went through a neuromuscular rehabilitation program for the body spasms, but my body spasms didn't improve that much, only slightly. Again, we were just looking for more answers and looking for more resources for the spasms. And then I also found mold where I was living at the time, and I realized then that I had been living in mold or water damaged houses most of my life, which has also played a huge role in all of my symptoms. The third year, I focused on detoxing from mold. And then I received a triple diagnosis of PCOS, pelvic floor dysfunction, and possible endometriosis. And then I also received a diagnosis of POTS. And then by year 4, which is now, I am focused on healing and rebuilding. And I've been focused on my physical and emotional health, nervous system regulation, adrenal function, and cortisol levels. I've done a combo of oral antibiotics, herbal tinctures, homeopathy, IV ozone, and peptide injections. Right now, I'm on my 13th protocol and attempt at healing Lyme and Babesia. I've recently introduced Panella into my regimen, and for the first time in 4 years, my body spasms have stopped.
Yay.
Yeah.
That's so good.
And
So good.
it's amazing and truly unbelievable. Um, I I forgot what it was like to not have body spasms. And now that the spasms have improved and they've reduced, I'm starting to feel like myself again.
I have chills hearing that. I remember seeing you write a post recently about how your spasms have started going away, and I know that that's been a big thing for you. And so I'm so happy that this is your rebuilding year. It's a good time for you.
Yeah,
Me
thank you. It
too.
really is.
Awesome.
I'm dancing again. I'm walking how I used to walk. I'm talking how I used to talk, and I yeah, it's just unbelievable. Thank
I know,
you.
so
Thank
great.
you. Yeah, thank you. It's so exciting. And I'm really just looking forward to what's coming next and all of these opportunities that we have. I'm so grateful to have met all of you throughout this journey, and I'm so excited to see where this leads us.
Me too.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
I mean, Kaylee, I think it's awesome. I think same as BB watching the Panilla story unfold has been really cool to see that you're just like, look, like I'm not. I mean, we've been
Yeah,
watching your story for so long, and like the
yeah,
spasms is something that is very noticeable. So to see that it is noticeably different is amazing.
I
thank you.
agree.
Super happy.
Yeah, it's amazing seeing you now and like seeing the joy, and it just makes me happy.
Callie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So I didn't write anything down, so I'm gonna do this from the heart. But I'm Callie, Callie Mixon from Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, the big city down here. So throughout childhood, I was always sick. I would get recurring fevers, some as high as 105, headaches, all the things, brain fog, ADHD, but the doctors could never figure it out. There was one instance in college where my fever reached 105, terrible headache. I was hospitalized, and doctors never figured it out. And for years, the doctors would tell me, "Oh, you have anxiety. That's why you keep getting sick," which doesn't make sense. And then I went on into my young adult life and had two beautiful children, but the pregnancies were pretty bad. I had preeclampsia and cholestasis with my first, and they had to deliver him a month early. And then with my daughter, it just honestly felt like I was dying. And then they had to deliver her at 37 weeks and discovered that my uterine lining was rupturing, and I was minutes away from a rupture. So I'm very blessed and lucky to be here today. And so during all of this journey, my health significantly got worse after COVID, and my mom had to move in with us, me and my family, to take care of me. And the doctors just couldn't figure it out until I finally landed at Emory, and they diagnosed me with long COVID, POTS syndrome, and MCAS, where they started treating me, but my doctor kept saying there's something underlying causing all of this, and I'm going to help you figure that out. And that doctor is Dr. Alexis Cutchins. She's a cardiologist over there at the Emory University Hospital. Saved my life, basically. But I started getting kind of better under her treatment because she was treating the POTS and MCAS with histamine blockers, so Pepcid and Zyrtec. And she tried all this other medication too, like beta blockers, stuff that would slow my heart rate. But I actually got worse taking those, which is interesting. So I did a lot of lifestyle changes before I finally got my Lyme diagnosis. But my allergies throughout the years kept getting worse and worse. And it all came to a head this past October when I went anaphylactic twice after getting my wisdom teeth out. And I knew I had to figure out what was causing everything. Like, otherwise, I didn't see the outcome as good. So I went to an integrative medicine doctor and paid an absolute fortune to get every test under the sun. And I made them test for Lyme disease and co because I remembered getting bit by a tick in my childhood. My dad found it on my head at a restaurant, which is nasty, but it was massive. It was traumatizing. I'm like this 7, 8-year-old girl at a restaurant with all my friends, and my dad's like, "Oh my God, there's a tick on your head." Um, sorry.
Your poor childhood.
Um, but I made them test for Lyme and Co. And I'm glad I did because when it came back, they did the Western blot and IGNX. IGNX, I don't know how you pronounce it, but the Western blot came back negative under CDC guidelines, but then the IGNX showed chronic Lyme and then active co-infections. And then they also did the ALCAT food intolerance test and then a bunch of food allergy blood tests. And it showed that I was intolerant and allergic to almost 60 foods. So when I got all the diagnoses, like one, they were like, you have to cut all these foods out for at least 6 months. And then two, you have Lyme and Co. You need to get on doxycycline and all these things. It was really overwhelming and I didn't know how to take it. I mean, I have two young kids. Like, I don't know. I love gluten. I love biscuits, fried chicken, and I had to cut out all those things. And so I took to TikTok to kind of like put how I was feeling out there to kind of get a release because and then I met these beautiful people on here. I'm so thankful I did. And like did the antibiotics and then started a natural journey and I cut out all the foods, but I'm gonna slowly start adding food back. Um, I do think I have alpha-gal syndrome, so I have to look into that as well. But I'm just so thankful I met you guys, and I'm excited to see what the future holds.
We're thankful we met you too. I didn't realize that you had met us right when you like were getting your diagnosis, but You made a really interesting point that we should probably talk about on another episode about the traumatic births and how that can affect those of us that have Lyme disease that maybe don't realize it and then how that can trigger it.
I also, just to chime in, if you do have alpha gal, I think that could be really helpful for a lot of people who may be experiencing that as well. I think you may be the only one in the group who's potentially dealing with that. And that's pretty big.
Yeah. Yeah. Cutting out all of mammalian meats is kind of overwhelming. After cutting out like over 60 foods already, I'll find out hopefully in the next couple weeks because I go see a new allergist. But I was looking up, you can have emu. You can have emu and ostrich, and it tastes just like steak.
So are we gonna see your news like posts of all these amazing meals that you're cooking with emu and ostrich?
Maybe, we'll see. It's
Where do you
expensive.
get that?
I'll send y'all a link. There's this farm that like they have a bunch of emu and ostrich and duck
Well,
and chicken.
Can you have duck though, or it's just emu and ostrich?
You can have like anything with feathers.
Okay.
oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, teach us all about these new feathery dishes.
I'll be happy to.
Well, Callie, I can relate. I totally know that the elimination diets and cutting food out, it's really, really hard. Especially when it's like super strict. I don't know if I ever cut 60 foods out, but I cut out a lot of food groups and I know that it's tough.
Right when I cut out all of the foods, I had a friend that was sending me photos of all of her dinners and desserts and things that she was having, and it was just like
Aw.
pure torture and completely ended that friendship.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
Why
like, thanks a lot.
did she know that you were cutting them out?
And like it every day I was getting some, oh, you need to try this, you need to try this. And it just like it could not get through her head that that was like pure torture.
Yeah. Block.
Yeah, apple button. We love apple button.
Yeah, we do.
We do a lot of that throughout this journey.
Yeah, you might hear about a block every single episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have
You don't
time for
have to.
negativity. So if somebody's bringing negativity, hi.
Abby, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, for sure. My disclaimer is that I took notes because when I think about my journey in the last 6 years, it's like very overwhelming for me. So anyways, I'm Abby. I'm 29. I'm from Virginia. I was pretty sick throughout childhood as well. I had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of joint pain and I had migraines to the point where I was like in and out of the ER when I was in elementary school. And then the joint pain kind of just followed me throughout my life. And then in 2019, I had to have I always say this wrong, I had to have a colposcopy.
What's that?
It is a biopsy of your cervix. I think I'm saying it right. So colposcopy, but it was a biopsy of the cervical tissue, I guess is the best way to describe it. And it's like a super simple procedure. I mean, painful and whatever, but and then I had to have a LEEP procedure after that. So that's an outpatient, basically like burning of some cells in your cervix. So I had to have that done. And sometime shortly after the LEEP procedure, I started to have tingling in my legs. And the doctors were like, that's not a side effect. Like that's, you're stressed, you're anxious. So the leg tingling went on. I started to have facial twitching. And I started to have vertigo. And so in 2020, my first episode of vertigo was actually, I was running on a treadmill at the YMCA and watching the news about the pandemic. And like, I felt like the world was spinning. And I was like, oh, that was definitely stress, right? But then it never went away. So like, I was dealing with this vertigo throughout 2020. And then I started having things like, I was totally intolerant of like caffeine and alcohol. And I knew something was wrong early on because I was just overall like a pretty active person. Like I was running marathons and half marathons and training for an ultra marathon. And then to just go from that to like not even being able to have a cup of coffee without a reaction or not even being able to like run without feeling dizzy. I knew something was wrong. So then in March of 2020, I went to work at a hospital, and my symptoms kind of plateaued, like they weren't debilitating. But I gained 50 pounds, and the job was super stressful. I don't know. It was very stressful. I was working like 60 hours a week. We were pretty isolated on the COVID unit, and my mental health just like totally tanked. Then in April of 2021, left that job, and I felt like, again, my health was just kind of where it had paused, and nothing was getting better, but nothing was getting worse. But then I started a new job, and in January of 2022, I ended up with symptoms like shortness of breath, air hunger, exercise intolerance, heat intolerance, extreme fatigue, night sweats, extreme weakness, horrible brain fog. Like, I remember in 2022, I was trying to address an envelope, and I was looking at the address on the screen, and I was writing it on the envelope, and I could not get it correct. And I went through tons of envelopes, just like could not process what I was reading to get it onto the envelope, and it was very bothersome. So I saw a bunch of doctors, a bunch of specialists. I had 3 MRIs, 2 EKGs, tons of blood work. My doctor thought like maybe a blood clot, maybe early heart failure, maybe bipolar, maybe anxiety, maybe ADHD. Like, nobody really knew. They were just kind of throwing stuff out there. And so by the late summer of 2022, I was pretty convinced that I was dying. I did not think I was going to make it through the year. I could hardly get off the couch. My husband was like helping me bathe and wash my hair and take care of like basic hygiene. Like, he was pretty much a home health nurse, but without any pay, because things were just so bad. And so I saw a functional medicine doctor, and she diagnosed me with Lyme disease and co-infections. And I started treatment from there. Did 12 weeks of doxycycline, rifampin, and Plaquenil, as well as a very strict elimination diet and a gut healing protocol. And for a while, I started to feel improvements. And then about a month and a half into the protocol that she had me on, I started to develop ovarian cysts. And they were large, they were painful. I was in and out of the ER. And then I ended up having to have a laparoscopy. I believe that's the correct word for a cyst that you have, a surgery you have for cysts. But I had to have that in December, and the surgery was just really tough. Like, again, it was kind of an outpatient surgery. It's supposed to be easy. It took me a long time to recover from it. And then by Valentine's Day of 2023, my symptoms just got worse again. Like, I was struggling to walk. The leg tingling was horrific. I was having symptoms of POTS, was basically bedbound. And my doctor was kind of like, take an Epsom salt bath and relax. And like, this was a doctor who I spent like thousands of dollars for her to treat me and help me figure this stuff out. And so I, in all my bedbound free time, I started doing my own research. And that's when I started questioning if I was being exposed to mold. So I took that research to another doctor who then tested me for mold toxicity, and my numbers were super duper high. She was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, this is mold. And so we started detoxing and focusing on addressing the mold. And I was on that protocol from April of 2023 up until I'm actually currently still on it. So I never got the chance to taper off until I was then re-exposed to mold, double what I had been exposed to previously that was making me bedbound. But in that time, I had, built up my reserves, and I felt like the best I had ever felt. I just never got to taper off the protocol until I was exposed again. And then this time, being exposed again, I was having nervous system issues like adrenaline dumps, anxiety attacks, like with no thoughts. It was just like I would be hanging out doing something and just get super anxious, or get this tingling in the back of my neck. And like, I don't know how to explain it, but I knew it would happen. I knew it was going to happen because the back of my neck would tingle, and then like everything would just follow suit. Like, my heart rate would go high. I would start sweating. I felt like I had to escape like wherever I was, even if it's like in my own home. I'm like, I have to go somewhere else. So I'm again focusing on detoxing, and then focusing on nervous system regulation and gut health to get things back on track. And I am 3 weeks away from retesting my urine for my mycotoxin numbers to see if I can actually taper off the protocol this time. So that's where we're at.
Keep us posted on how that goes. I'm in the process of doing a mold protocol and all those tests as well. So, yeah, definitely keep us in the loop.
Yeah, I will. It's tough. It's a lengthy process.
You mentioned one thing that really stuck out to me, which I have a feeling is similar across the board for all of us, was the alcohol. And it's like when your alcohol tolerance changes and the hangovers change, you think that maybe you're getting older and you're like, oh, I'm in my 30s now and this is just how the hangovers are supposed to feel. But no, they're like 10 times worse. And our tolerance, did anybody else experience that in here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard because I look at my friends and they drink, you know, and then they're like hungover the next day, but still able to like go do stuff. And then whenever I would drink, I'd be in bed and then I would feel hungover for a whole week after.
Yeah. Like if I would drink on the weekend, I guarantee you I wouldn't be able to like get a full day of work done until like Wednesday or Thursday, maybe that next week. That was a huge sign for me.
I can't even, when I have a drink, which I haven't in a long time, but like I get the shakes. Like it's just totally dysregulating for my system. And even like a sip of something, like a couple sips, once it's in my system, I just feel shaky, and I'll feel shaky for like 24 to 48 hours afterwards, even if it's not even a full serving or a half serving of alcohol. Yeah.
Same. That happens to me too. Or more recently, that's happened to me where I'm like, I just can't even have a drink, like a sip, drink a sip, like can't do it.
Yeah.
Almost
Tequila.
feels like an allergic reaction almost because like sometimes like if I try, I haven't done it in a while because I'm terrified, but like wine or bourbon, I get this like weird hot feeling in my ears and neck. I don't know. Has anybody else experienced that?
I get the warmth, and then I don't drink bourbon at all, but I do when I drink the red wine, I can feel it and here. Now tequila, I don't seem to have as many reactions with. I don't know if
Same.
it's like placebo
Same.
effect, but
Yeah, I love
tend to
tequila.
feel better.
Like if nowadays, if I am gonna have alcohol, it is only tequila. But
Tequila
it's
Callie.
the nice tequila.
Alcohol sensitivity was one of my first symptoms too early on. And I remember just having a few sips of alcohol and I would get cold chills and I would just get really cold. And then it would go from that to being really nauseous. And I would be like, okay, but I had half of a White Claw. Why am I about to throw up?
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
even drunk.
Yeah.
I'm not even buzzed at this point. What is happening? And then eventually it led to like MCAS reaction.
Yep.
And I remember being at a party and my best friend had to take me to the hospital because my tongue started swelling, my lips started swelling, and
Yeah,
I
the
just like,
tingling. And then the
yeah,
heart palpitations. I
yeah.
don't know. It's like the hot ears for me. Whenever my ears get really hot, I'm like, oh shit. Like, is this
Too
about to
much.
be a full like throat closure?
All right. And we're down to 4 because that's just what life is like with Lyme. Kristen, do you want to go next?
Sure. So, hi, my name is Christen. I am 40 and I live in Connecticut. So, my story with Lyme is I feel like it's like a twofold because I was diagnosed with Lyme in my mid 20s, and the story there was that I was sleeping with my dog, and I slept with my dog every night, and I saw a tick on me, and then I like went to look for it, and I couldn't find it, so I just assumed the tick. I don't know what I assumed, but it was like somewhere in my room and gone, and like I just didn't have to deal with it. And then a few weeks later, similar to Abby, I was running like 3, 4 miles a day. I went from that to being like bedbound and saw my primary care and was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome and was basically told like this is a lifelong sentence. Like, and I said, so overnight you can go from running 3 to 4 miles to having chronic fatigue syndrome and never get out of your bed again. And she was like, yeah, that's just how that works. And I like could not like in my gut take that as like this is my lifelong sentence that I'm going to be bedbound. So anyway, I ended up going to a few ERs and told the story about like seeing the tick. And one ER where my best friend's mom worked, she was the head of the ER, had told the doctor, like, just give her a round of doxycycline. And so I got 2 weeks of doxycycline, and within those 2 weeks, I started to feel better. Even though I tested negative on the Western blot, I started to feel better, and I was like, this has to be it. Like, I have to have Lyme disease. I was clearly bitten by the tick. There's no rash, but like taking doxycycline was making me feel better. I was more active. Like, I wasn't just bedbound. And so from there, that became a 3 year long healing process for me. I ended up finding a naturopath's office who also treated me for mold, for mycotoxins. But my primary symptoms in my 20s was this like really harsh fatigue. So I'd go to work and come home and just like lay on the couch for the rest of the night, like couldn't do anything. So I put all my energy into working. And then like muscle pain and joint pain. And once I put that into remission, I kind of just took that as like, well, that was just a shitty time in my life. I'm putting it behind me. I'm never going to think about Lyme disease ever again. And if I get it again, I will know the fatigue, I will know the joint pain, and I will know the muscle pain. And even if I test negative, I will be able to go to a doctor and say, this happened to me before, just give me some doxycycline, and like I'll be on my merry way. Um, so fast forward to being 37. I had my daughter in September of 2022, and similar to Callie, it was a rough pregnancy. She was low birth weight. They had to induce me because something was wrong with her. And I ended up having group B strep, so they gave me penicillin. And as soon as they gave me penicillin, I was like, oh, this is going to mess up my gut. Like, I knew about gut microbiome. I was really into eating healthy and sauna. You know, I had already just had these like lifestyle changes just because I just was into being healthy. And again, I was running 3 or 4 miles a day, sons, like being pregnant, like obviously. But, and then I had postpartum preeclampsia, and I had mastitis twice. So I had this like really rough postpartum. And my daughter ended up with a thyroid issue. So there was a whole thing around my second pregnancy. But anyway, come the summer of 2023, out of nowhere, I started experiencing neurological symptoms. So I had snowy vision, I had ringing in the ear, I had vertigo, I had, I started to get tremors. I also had vibrations in my spine. It's this weird sensation, like when a cell phone's ringing, that it's ringing in your spine. So I started having all these and pre-syncope, where I like literally would be like, my heart would skip a beat and I'd feel like I'm about to pass out. And when that happened, that scared me because like I didn't know what was going on. Am I fainting? Am I like, what is happening to me? So that sent me on a spiral to hospitals, to ER visits, which then sent me on a spiral to neurologists. I, similar to Kaleigh, was diagnosed with functional neurological disorder. Spiral to cardiologist to find out if there's something wrong with my heart, then spiral into psych because I started experiencing psych issues. And I think everyone believed I just had anxiety, and I was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. So it was just a spiral, a spiral, a spiral. And I eventually was like, I'm going back to the naturopath that I initially worked with because maybe like someone in alternative medicine can help me, because Western medicine just kept sending me like down all these different paths and nobody could actually tell me what was wrong. And he initially said, I believe you have all these viruses that are attacking your system, like primarily Epstein-Barr virus. And then after treating for a couple months, they then, in that practice, him and his partner were like, we actually believe you have Lyme, Babesia, and Bartonella. And so that then sent me into like finding a Lyme literate doctor, getting placed on a antimalarial that caused more psychosis. And that sent me into a whole nother realm of issues, but then found a different Lyme literate doctor. So I guess this is to say, like, if one doesn't work out, you always find another, but to get on a treatment path. And I had tested negative twice in Western blot, but then took IGeneX. And IGeneX in March of 2024 was positive for Lyme, positive for Babesia. Just sorry to back up, the first Lyme literate doctor gave me a clinical diagnosis. He said, you can either take a Western blot and I'll clinically diagnose you and it will be free, because every Lyme litter doctor is like $3,000 up front. So you can pay $3,000 for me and a free Western blot, and I'll clinically diagnose you, or you can pay $3,000 for me and $3,000 for your hygienics. And I opted out of paying $6,000 out of pocket because who really can afford to just give $6,000 like up front like that? But I wish I had just done it. Anyways, because I ended up doing it anyway, got that positive, and then after treating for 6 months, Bartonella showed up and mold toxicity showed up. So it was a bit of a peeling of the onion, but because my neurological symptoms with the treatment of Babesia weren't going away, there was this assumption that there's Bartonella there, but it's hiding, and that's what happened. So I'm still treating, but I'm a lot better than I was.
You brought up the anxiety that a lot of us tend to feel, and doctors do misdiagnose us with a lot of mental disorders and mental illnesses because it fully attacks our brains, and they just don't fully understand that. I know that you had anxiety. I'm pretty sure that all of us at one point with Lyme have had that crippling anxiety where you really don't think you're going to make it through the day, and it's hard to explain that to other people because it's not your normal anxiety.
No. I mean, I was so sick at one point. We had nurses in the house, and I would look at the clock and I would pray to get to 6 p.m. Because if I made it to 6 p.m., I knew I had 3 more hours before I went to bed. And if I could just make it to the full day to 6, I had 3 hours left, and then I could make it to the next day and I would live another day. I mean, I was at the point where Abby was saying, like, I felt like I was going to die. I literally was calling people saying, like, please take care of my kids. Like, I'm not going to make it. Like, it was just like that bad. And, the crippling anxiety where you're just like, if I can just make it to this time, like, I literally would like count it down. I know I'll live another day. Like that. I mean, you just get so like singular. Like your life becomes so small in those like dark times that it's just like I just have to do this. If I can just make it to this, I'll be okay. Yeah.
If I can just fall asleep and make it through that sleep, and then I can do it all over again the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a bit of survival mode, but I think, yeah, I think we've all been there. You're just in survival mode, and if I can make it out of this time period and get to the next level of whatever the healing is, like the next level should be better than that level.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is really riding the waves of, okay, right now I have to take it 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day at a time. I just have to make it through right now.
Yeah. And it's a hard thing that a lot of people don't understand when we are in that we're truly making it hour by hour, and I can't commit to plans or anything that's coming up in days or weeks because it's literally an hour by hour moment that we're trying to get through.
That's so true. Or you're at an event and you're like, okay, I have like 10 more minutes left in me and then I have to dip. Like I gotta go.
Yeah. And when you
Yeah.
say 10 minutes, you know that it's like 10 minutes is a hard stop.
Hard
Yeah.
stop.
It is.
Hard stop. I remember I was actually talking to a mom recently because my son's graduating kindergarten, and I was like, I remember before I was like fully diagnosed, I went to his chorus, like their Christmas concert, and I remember standing at the wall and like hugging the wall, and I'm like, please, no parent talk to me, nobody talk to me, I'm just here to watch my son because I'm not going to be able to like verbalize anything. And I went, and then I told my husband, I'm like, as soon as this is done, like as soon as the singing stops, I'm beelining it to the car, and I'll sit in the car and you guys can socialize and I will wait for you in the car because I can't do it. So like I just remember these moments where I'm just like, I'm going to show up, but I'm like struggling internally, and I'm not going to talk to anybody, and they're going to think I'm totally like off my rocker, and I probably am, but I can't do it. So,
And it's good that you gave that boundary to yourself, and to step away because it does take so much extra energy to put words together. And I remember the first time that I spoke a full sentence after being sick. So it's just takes so much energy, and I'm proud of you for being able to go out into the car and say, you know what, I'll see you when you guys are done talking. And good for your family for understanding that too.
and to cope with the overstimulation of everything when you do go in public. That's something that no one prepares you for. Um, like I went from teaching dance with kids around me all the time, loud music, dance parents watching. I mean, like all of these elements to now when I go into public, I always bring earphones with me or earbuds with me to like drown out noise if I need to, or I have different coping tools to use in public because I just get too overstimulated, and it creates this internal anxiety, almost like you just need to get out of your body feeling. Like you just need it to stop and you need to shut down, and no one prepares you for that piece of this journey.
Yeah. Or even just like I know we're talking about feeling hungover, but feeling hungover if you do go out like the next day, you're like, I need I need to rest. That
And
was
if
a
you
lot.
don't even have alcohol, you're just
Yeah,
hungover from like
just
Hungover from just being a person in life. Yeah.
social hangover.
Thank you guys for joining us on our first ever Slice of Lime episode. Every episode will be a little bit different. Like this one today, we were doing some short intros. Over the next few, we will do one-on-one intros so you'll get to know us better. And then we'll come back to have more of conversations around specific topics. If there are any topics that you are interested in, please shoot us an email or send us a DM. And if you have a question that you would like us to answer at the end of each episode, feel free to send that in. And today we will leave you with one word of advice to our listeners. My advice for the day would be to really listen to your body. If your body is asking you to rest and your mind doesn't want to do it, listen to your body over your mind, okay?
I would say I have a few things. If I were to do this journey all over again, I would treat mold first and then Lyme. That's my first piece of advice. And second piece of advice is keep going until you find something that works for you. It took me 4 years to finally find the missing piece to all of this. And this process is going to be more trial and error versus trial and success.
My piece of advice for listeners today would be um, remember that you're not alone. So reach out to people on TikTok. Like making my TikTok account was just so amazing for me, so helpful, especially like as evidenced by these friendships on this podcast here. But you're not alone, and reaching out and knowing there are people on similar paths, people on similar journeys, crowdsourcing information and doing your own research, I think is super important.
Yeah,
So true.
always reach out to one of us too.
Yeah.
We have our
We're-
Slice of Lime TikTok account. We have our Slice of Lime Instagram account too. So you can always reach out to the group on Slice of Lime, or you can reach out to us individually as well. But we are here to support you through your Lyme journey and the chaos of all of this.
Yeah, and I'll just say, like, I mean, I'll speak for myself, though I know everyone will agree. Like, when I'm having symptoms, I reach out to the group, like, hey, has anyone dealt with this before? Or, what do I do if this? Or, because we are still going through the process of healing. And there are so many people, like to Abby's point, like, that have experienced something similar or have done something that has helped. And, like, maybe you haven't thought of it, or in the moment you're drowning and you just need somebody to tell you, like, try the Berber Panilla or whatever, and it's just helpful to, yeah, to have community. So I totally agree with that. So I have two things to share. The first one would be, again, this is like in my darkest, but to remember what you're fighting for and not to give up. So, like, what is it at your core that you would fight for that would make you keep going? Because sometimes it gets so dark, you don't know if you can keep going. And so, just like remember in your heart what you're fighting for, because there is a light at the end of this tunnel. And some of the best advice I got, again, in my darkest hours, was that this moment is temporary and every moment is temporary. And so you'll get through it because everything in life changes. Everything is temporary. And so you can look at it very small and like this minute is temporary, or this year is temporary, or the past 10 years is temporary. Like, you are not the same person that you are a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and you won't be that same person 10 years from now. So just remember that if you're struggling, this moment is temporary.
Love that. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Slice of Lyme. We're here to remind you you're not alone, your story matters, and healing is possible. Now be sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. We'd love to hear from you, so send us your questions, stories, or topic suggestions by sliding into our DMs or emailing us at sliceoflimepodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, rest when you need to, speak your truth, and keep showing up for yourself.